Okay, day 100. I'm changing the name of the series to the DynCorp Harvest. This series started out investigating the Clinton Foundation, but it led straight to this company called DynCorp. And DynCorp is not only doing police contracts and contracts for maintaining aircraft, which is the good stuff, but it's turned into something much different. And I showed yesterday how the Bush administration also leads straight to DynCorp, and the Trump administration all leads straight to DynCorp. And it started out looking at their use of vaccines. They have a $500 million virus and vaccine development program that they get from the U.S. government. But then there was all these countries where DynCorp was training the police officers to attack and gang rape girls and boys. So that led to that part of the investigation. But the last part of the investigation has led to this organ harvesting. So we thought it was just stingers and sarin gas, but as we get further and further into this, it gets more macabre. And I'll show you exactly what I mean. I didn't mean to say yesterday that Paul Farmer indiscriminately was harvesting organs out of people. That's never how this stuff works. What the CIA does is they compartmentalize any kind of operation into different parts where you only know your part. So for instance, if there was political enemies in a certain country that the police had detained, like Haiti, let's say, they would say to Paul Farmer, who's been in Haiti and Rwanda and a lot of these places where there's been genocides by police forces, and they would say, hey, these are prisoners, they're going to die anyway. Do you want the organs? So he's not the one choosing. He's just saying, well, we may as well make use of these organs while they're here. And I found this surprising. This is going to relate directly to the Cleveland Clinic and these doctors that were vacationing from Iran that were detained in New York. Paul Farmer, I started looking. Cleveland Clinic, for those who don't know it, have all these. They're a transplant, probably one of the top transplant places in the world for livers, kidneys, hearts, lungs, intestines, pancreases, bone marrow, corneas, face, bone and soft tissue. What I didn't realize was the prices that they charge. Kidneys are the most valuable at $262,000. I don't know if that's one kidney or two. Lungs, $200, liver, $157, heart, $119, cornea, $15K. Bone marrow is your most valuable thing in your body at $23,000 a gram. I don't know how many grams of bone marrow in your bones that are recoverable, harvestable. So there's a little operation chart here that shows that. I took a lot of different sources for this information. So even if you're off $50,000 one way or the other, it's still, if here's a dissident, we have a dissident in our country who's saying they don't, or like here's a George Webb in the United States who's saying this is a bad practice. Well, hey, I don't see it necessarily as George Webb. I see it, it's like $500,000 worth of harvestable organs. And I'm just asking the question, if the first time somebody said to Hillary, if we can get a $100,000 donation from this person, if we get them a heart before they die, or get them a kidney before they die, they're on dialysis, so we know who all the people are. So this is kind of that need for the health information, this kind of monomaniacal quest she has for this health information all the time. I think the Paul Farmer relationship to Hillary has gone back 25 years. I think it goes all the way back to sending the rice to Haiti in '82. So the Trump connection is here as well. The top economic advisor for Trump is Steve Feinberg, who owns DynCorp through Cerberus Capital. And Cleveland Clinic has a South Florida location about an hour away from Trump, and they are going to next month, they're going to their big celebration at Mar-a-Lago. So this is all intertwined, Trump, Bush, and Hillary. He's been all over the world to these. Paul Farmer here heads a company called Partners in Health, and he's trained these doctors in these places where there's all these mass genocides. So here I talked about Doug Coe, who runs this organization called the Brotherhood. This is like the American Muslim Brotherhood. He's gone back all the way to Eisenhower, okay? And anyway, he's very good friends. You'll see him tomorrow he invited Paul Kagame, this guy who runs Rwanda. Well, if you don't know Rwanda, he started out in Uganda. They did a mass kill in Rwanda to kill half of the people in Rwanda. Then when the CIA established a base in Rwanda, then they took over Sudan and Congo, as well as several other African nations. And all along the way, Doug Coe's group was there with them for some reason. Now here's Doug Coe talking about the two leaders he admires most is Mao and Hitler for their absolute loyalty of their followers. And he's demonstrating, I watched this film, it's down here in the notes, of chopping the head off of a kid in the Red Guard, chopping the head off of his mother. Now I don't know why a kid in the Red Guard would chop the head off of his mother unless they were going to harvest the organs from his mother. China's the worst organ harvesting nation in the world, and I don't think I have to prove that. So who's Paul Kagame? If you don't know, from Rwanda, they try to dress him up, but they always make a movie about it later, and they leave out the CIA. But this was Hotel Rwanda, where they killed half the population. Then they went to Congo, and then he killed half the population again. And all along the way, they use the men to mine, they sell the women, and then they sell the children. And this has been the main profiteer here is Lucas Lundin, who's a major $100 million contributor to the Clinton Foundation. So the other thing Paul Kagame does is he likes to throw the dead bodies that they didn't, the waste or whatever, into this lake. So not only do 6 million people die, but he leaves a lot of evidence when he does these kind of human traffic things. You can see in the previous Echoes d'Afrique, trafic d'organes humains, it means human trafficking. Sorry for the bad French. So there was reports of DynCorp in Bosnia, Kosovo, and doing rampant organ harvesting. There are people every day emailing me talking about finding bodies that have been hollowed out. The current director of health in Syria says 15,000 organs have been trafficked in Syrian children, as well as the sex trafficking, using these as bait, these kids as bait. Then I've got film here of DynCorp with the white helmets removing hearts, corneas, well, everything. The whole chest cavity is gone. Corneas as well. You can see his eyes. Again, now this might be a conspiracy theory, but there's all these reports of these bodies that have been taken out with hearts, like 50 countries. So everywhere Paul Farmer goes, it seems to have a rampant dealing in organs. Now, he knows the Clintons very well. Paul Farmer is very closely connected to John Podesta. And here's John Podesta with the organ harvesting picture in his office, and the organ harvesting cakes that he makes, these macabre cakes that they make in these public rituals. So they're all, Nemkova here, toasting the leader of Haiti, she runs an organization called Happy Hearts. Now, I believe that's comfort furniture for the mind, that, this heart came from a prisoner, or these kidneys came from a prisoner, and now they're happy because they're in a good body. The recipient in this famous Podesta email is Pam Fleischiker, which means flesh taker in German. Rape, pillage, and plunder is the name of his corporation. So for guys like this, for the Gary Webbs of the world and the Michael Ruperts who say, hey, you're flying cocaine into these poor neighborhoods, you're sending guns back the other way, and oh, by the way, we have all these. I was in Hawthorne in L.A., and there was 4 heads of 4 gang members in 4 different garbage cans. And it's supposed to be this Bloods versus the Crips. But then I started asking myself, what happened to the bodies? Where did they go? So I think Los Angeles could be another area. I know Chicago is, but I think Los Angeles is another area. But what do you do in the United States? You get guys like this to come up with a sex slavery revenge motive, and you get these religious groups to make them hamburger. You harvest their organs. This guy here runs an organization called Operation Underground Railroad, where he uses these kids to try to lure people in to be filmed having sex with underage minors. And then he shows that film to these religious groups, and these religious groups then feel righteous about about harassing these people, and I believe they're getting their organs. If there's 100,000 organs every year produced and there's only 5,000 donors or 6,000 donors, I don't get it. Or maybe 8,000 at most. So this is Operation Underground Railroad. Here's the women saying, hey, police forces are gang raping me. Here's Pug Winokur. This is the guy who owns DynCorp. He's the guy who has run this operation over and over again in all these different countries in the world. So I say the U.S. JTTF is that same DynCorp operation, the same Underground Railroad operation. This is a third-party agency, a separate company from the U.S. government that's going out and doing sexting operations with low-light cameras. No oversight whatsoever from the law enforcement community. So I showed how the Booz Allen, I believe the money for this Operation Underground Railroad is coming from Booz Allen being passed through DHS over to here through a DHS block grant of some type. And here is the CEO with a Haitian child, and he has a heart in the hand. I don't know. I think there's a lot of subtle links here. Here's the hospital ship that goes to Haiti every year. It's called the Comfort. It's the U.S. Naval Hospital ship Comfort, and it's right now in Norfolk, but it's about ready to go on its 2017 launch, and it goes to about 11 different countries in the Caribbean, Latin America, and Haiti, some of the islands and so forth. So they come on shore and they set up mobile tents, and then they also bring people out for operations. I believe that the reason Continuing Promise is called Operation Continuing Promise, I believe that they're doing follow-up on viruses that they've spread because DynCorp has contracts for spraying for drug eradication, but it never eradicates any drugs. Only people get sick. There's lawsuits all over Latin America for this. I think this is the follow-up. They call it the long-term follow-up. Longitudinal studies is what they call it. And they're looking at people longitudinally to see what effects of the biological agents have. DynCorp has the contract for not only developing the biological weapons, but then also for the vaccines. So this is all, I know I'm saying DynCorp a lot and you've never heard of it. It's kind of the CIA's black budget. And DynCorp I'm using as a model to try to open this black budget up. So here they were using, it's not like the U.S. military hasn't done this before. They were using body bags in the Jeffrey McDonald case to put drugs inside the body cavities. So this has been written about going all the way back to the Vietnam War. So if you look at, if you haven't followed the series, you can see all the development. The USAID money was spent up here to kind of form a doctor's paradise. You've got patients on one end and you've got doctors on the other end coming in cruises. You've got the nice airport here. You've got a cruise line, a big cruise line, and then you got an oil terminal over here that you can use slave labor from the prison. And in the middle, you've got kind of a brothel. So, and then a nice, in here in Lemonade, which I think is a little code word for using black hearts and white bodies, is in between where the patients meet the doctors. So anyway, it just, none of the money being spent down here other than for kidney harvesting. This Digicel is basically gives out cell phones with a micro lending application so people can get in debt and pay off their interest with kidney harvesting. That goes all the way back to India. This started in India. So, and anywhere you see this guy, Bill Swing, he is the guy who tests vectors. They call it test vectors. What that means is they take a biological weapon and they insert it into a population. They sometimes will move like 10,000 people. They'll infect 10,000 people over here, and then they'll move it into a population, and then they'll study how it moves. And what you produce out of that is body bags. He killed 6 million people in the Congo. Here's the guy, Fred Eshelman, good friend of George Bush, with the vaccines. He does vaccine studies. There's, I think, 17 or 18 vaccine studies going on right now in Haiti. So this is, what I'm saying is it's kind of like a slaughterhouse from the nose to the tail and the oink, completely farming, children through young adulthood to Harvest. That's why I'm changing the name to DynCorp Harvest to this. Just follow the DynCorp body bags, and it tells you where to go. And they're tracking their inventory just like they track, hogs for slaughter with the little ear clips. They're with RFID. Now they're tracking them with the cell phones. I mentioned that Rwanda was the base for the CIA, a small country that you can launch operations in all directions. That same thing for the Middle East is going to be this King Abdullah in Jordan. And we've already shown in previous episodes how all the sarin gas and stingers were staged here. There's a thing called CATSOC here, which is a huge CIA base here for training special operations people. You're going to have the same kind of a transplant center here as well, I believe. And you also have them in Qatar, Bahrain, UAE, and Saudi Arabia as well. It's the growth industry in Saudi Arabia right now are going to be these transplants. And I asked the question, how do you get 800 homicides in Chicago when if you look at the homicides in Los Angeles, a much bigger city, I think it's about a fourth of that. So I'm saying Los Angeles also may be a harvest city as well. So these cities that are sanctuary cities may also be harvest cities. The money is just too great. If you go back to that slide with the money, it's $500,000 a body. $500,000 a body. And anywhere you have that kind of profit motive, I think you're going to see this company on-site OHS. This is Team Rubicon. This is the protective force. This is the sniper team that protects these medical professionals. And I think if you drill down on this on-site OHS, which DynCorp owns, that's going to show you your harvesting centers. I've also in the series followed Monica Peterson. She works for that DynCorp guy back in Denver, that Claude Destre, and she wrote about a lot of this stuff. Now, I don't think she got into the organ harvesting, which is we'll get there, but she certainly talked about using these phones to create these microloans, or micro sharking is what I call it, 195%. Women are buying their own sewing machine, and then they're going into this debt and then selling a kidney for $2,000. That kidney can be sold for $262,000 in the United States. I know it's a lot lower in India, but still, that's what's happening here. I can prove it. Just publish the 650,000 emails. Just the metadata will prove this. I think, and let me search for the word lemonade. If there's nothing to hide, there's nothing to hide. McCabe here, the assistant director at the FBI, or deputy director, has been nothing but destruction of evidence and trying to kill this investigation into the Clinton Foundation ever since it came up, ever since 2001 or 2013. So again, this information's already out there, so you may as well put out the metadata now. The FBI just put out some more data today talking about their rules for using informants. Well, they use those third parties like Operation Underground Railroad, and they don't have any rules. So that Operation Underground Railroad is exactly how the FBI has avoided their rules that they have for informants. And then, again, if you haven't seen the series, this is the New York Police Chief Captain that says, in fact, that these emails are about child exploitation, sex crimes, perjury, obstruction of justice, money laundering. Okay? And this is the district attorney who should be working on the case, not whatever he's doing over here. So, thank you.